Howdy, my name is Sunny Jain, a current MBA student at Mays Business School of Texas A&M University, and today I will be discussing key concepts and highlights related to the subject of energy finance. Energy finance is a field that many people may be interested in and not know much about, and my hope is to use this video as a tool to introduce and teach others. Our agenda is structured as follows. First, we will discuss reserves and basic theory, followed by key concepts related to financial statement analysis. Then, we will discuss energy derivatives and derivative strategy, and finally, we will discuss sustainability reporting. With this information, I hope to give you a better understanding of what energy finance entails for those that are interested in pursuing a career in this field. Before we begin to explore the world of energy finance, it is first important to understand what oil and natural gas is and what they are used for. Oil, gas, and coal are examples of fossil fuels which are formed from the remains of prehistoric organisms whose organic matter has transformed from extreme pressure and temperature. Fossil fuels are a finite resource with an only limited supply in the Earth's crust. Oil and gas are collectively known as hydrocarbons as it consists of carbon and hydrogen molecules. Coal is predominantly carbon. Oil in particular varies by appearance, density, and sulfur content, which is all priced differently. This substance is referred to as crude oil because it has been refined. Finally, gas is a mixture of different hydrocarbons. It is one of the cleanest fossil fuels to burn because of its low carbon content and also appears in different types, such as wet, dry, and sour, which differs by its composition of elements. As you can see from this diagram, energy fuels the world we live in, from vehicles to machines to even plastic and chemicals. We will now discuss the concept of reserves. Reserves are hydrocarbons that are found in the ground and in the ocean. These reserves are obtained by E&P companies or exploration and production companies that acquire, explore, and develop these reserves. Reserves are difficult to account for from a finance and accounting perspective because they cannot be seen, only estimated. For this reason, only the cost of reserves are recorded on the balance sheet, not its fair value. The cost is eventually recognized as an expense through depreciation, depletion, and amortization, also known as DD&A. Reserve information can be found in the supplemental information section of a company's 10K, which we will discuss in more detail. This is a fun illustration I drew for a group assignment which depicts seismic, an important tool used by petroleum geologists. Essentially, a source of energy through sound waves are applied to the ground, which is then reflective and produces data used to determine the depth and orientation of rock formations. With tools like these, geologists do not have to actually drill a well for this information. When discussing reserves, there are three primary categories. There are possible reserves, there are probable reserves, and there are proved reserves. These reserves are categorized by the probability that it contains quantities that can be commercially recoverable, with possible reserves having under 10% probability, probable reserves having a medium probability, and proved reserves having a high probability that quantities can be commercially recoverable with equal or more than the estimate. In addition, there are many subcategories of proved reserves, including subcategories of subcategories. Next, we will discuss SMOG disclosures, which also stand for Standard Measure of Oil and Gas. These disclosures are used by upstream companies to report the value of reserves. The market value or fair value of reserves are not recorded on a company's balance sheet, just their cost. However, SMOG disclosures are reflected in the supplemental information section of a company's 10K. These disclosures are unique because most of these variables are based on past production, except for volume, the production company predicts they will produce. Finally, these disclosures are standardized, meaning that they are calculated the same way for all companies. This allows one to compare and conduct further analysis with this data. Next, we will move to the next section of this presentation, financial statement analysis. PP&E, which stands for plant, property, and equipment, refers to the costs related to acquisition, exploration, development, and restoration. There are many costs related to the upstream processes, including acquiring and leasing the property, geological and geophysical costs, and the actual drilling of wells. In addition, accounting for exploration costs are done in two ways. The first method is successful efforts, in which companies only capitalize successful exploratory wells and expense unsuccessful wells. The other method is full cost accounting method, in which companies capitalize all exploratory well costs, both costs for the wells that found oil and those that did not. AFEs, or Authorization for Expenditures, are also an important concept that is common within the industry. AFEs are reports that track all costs of a project and compare budgets to actuals, and have important operational and accounting implications. In energy finance, reserves undergo oil and gas amortization based on annual estimates, which estimate the remaining book value of reserves over the remaining useful life. Next, we will discuss the very important subject of energy derivatives and why companies hedge to mitigate risk. Companies hedge to mitigate risk against unfavorable price changes, not to generate profit. The impact of hedging will always be the opposite of the impact of business profits, and businesses usually don't hedge 100% of their profits. An option or future allows you to lock into a price today for settlement in the future. A call option confers the right to buy, and a put option confers the right to sell. In this table, you can see that buyers of an option have the right to buy or sell, while sellers of an option have the obligation to buy or sell, contingent on whether the opposite party wants to exercise its right. These are examples of payout schedules which illustrate the relationship between strike price and the current market price. Collars are a trading strategy companies use to reduce hedging costs with premium income. In this strategy, companies set a price cap and floor by buying or selling a put and buying or selling a call, which allows the company to lock in a price range and give it flexibility within this range. Finally, we will discuss sustainability reporting. In order to understand the role of sustainability in corporate strategy, we must first create a working definition for sustainability. This is my own working definition for sustainability, which I developed as part of a class assignment, which goes as follows. Sustainability refers to the ongoing efforts undertaken by a company to align its operations and corporate strategy in a way that positively impacts the community while creating value for its shareholders. As part of a class assignment, we discussed in depth the very interesting case of Shell and its embroiling issues in the Niger Delta. In order to take this a step further, I decided to go beyond assigned course material and conduct further research, in which I was able to pull two reports that tell opposite stories. The first report is an annual report issued by Shell in 2006, and the second report was issued by environmentalist and activist groups around the same time, which tell the other side of the company's operations. The first report issued by Shell tells a very interesting story one filled with bright colors and pictures of employees engaged in community service. It tells of many initiatives Shell is engaged in to help the environment and local community, further backed with many graphs and statistics. At first glance, it shows a very positive image of Shell and how the company has incorporated sustainability into its company culture and included employees of all functions and levels in this vision. On the other hand, the second report, which was issued by activist groups, tells a very different story. One which shows Shell leaving a waste and disaster to every region it operates in. What is particularly interesting about this report is that it is also backed up by graphs and statistics. However, it tells a very different narrative. Ultimately, I believe that there is not a single culprit or party to blame for these embroiling issues, but I believe that there is a grave disconnect between the company, the government, and the local community that needs attention. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation and thank Mays Business School, Professor Deere, and all of you for the opportunity to give this presentation. Thank you.